You ever told your child, it's time to do homework? Then all of a sudden, they need some water. They need a snack. Oh, now you're hungry. Oh, their head hurts. They need to go lay down. They need to go walk around. So they do all these things to try to avoid the homework, and now you've taken 15 minutes to do a worksheet that should have took 5 seconds. But what I want you to realize is the homework may not be the problem, because when homework continually turns into a battle, there's usually something going on underneath the behavior. And once we find out what that is, homework can start looking very different in your house. Hi, I'm Ken, psychologist with the Djed Institute of Learning. And one of the biggest mistakes we can make with homework is assuming my child just doesn't want to do it. Maybe, but why? Once we look underneath the hood and we find out what is causing the avoidance, because avoidance is behavior too, and that behavior gives us information. So instead of asking, how do I make my child do the homework? I want you to start with a different question. Why won't they do the homework? This is 2 different questions, and they're going to lead you to 2 different answers. Number 1, your child's energy may already be depleted. Just think about what we ask them to do every single day. Get up early, get dressed, get yourself something to eat. Now let's go to school. I'm going to drop you off. Now you got to do 8 more hours of instruction. Then after that, you have to navigate friendships and you have to figure out how to get home. Once you get home, you're thinking you're done, but then I ask you to do some more work. Now just think about that for a second. At that point, a child probably doesn't have a lot of resources to pull from in order to finish that work. So it may look like pushback, and it's not disrespect. They just don't have the energy. Number 2, sometimes the work actually is too hard. Now imagine this for a second. Somebody hands you a page with all type of problems that you've never done before and don't know how to do. And then every time you try to get up because you don't know how to do it, they tell you to sit back down and finish it. How long before you get frustrated? Well, that happens to children every day. And instead of thinking they're being defiant, and when you see it reoccurring over and over again, you have to start thinking to yourself, is this a skill deficit? Do they actually know how to do these problems? I have a word right now that'll strike anxiety in the hearts of many parents over this last decade, and that's Common Core. Many children brought homework home that the parents didn't even know how to do. So before you assume that they just don't want to do homework, that they're lazy, that they're bad, start looking at the homework and see, can I even actually do this? And if the answer is no, it may not be that they're being defiant. Maybe they just need a little bit of skill practice. Because what if they can read the page, but they don't understand anything on it? What if they can do their multiplication, but they're just not fluent enough yet? Maybe they can write an entire paragraph, but their spelling is just not on point yet. So starting to look at the skill deficit will give us a better answer upon which we can intervene, because consequences alone don't teach those skill gaps. Executive functioning can make little homework feel huge, because think about what goes into this. Let me find my paper. Let me remember what I had to do to get started. Okay, now I have to turn to the page. Now I have to estimate how long this is going to take. Oh, what materials do I use? Oh, do I remember the lesson from last night? For some people, they know exactly how to do what is asked on the paper, but what's overwhelming is organizing their thoughts and their behavior to actually start and get it done. So when you see somebody just sitting there staring at the page, it may not be that they're being defiant. It may be that they don't even know where to start. Number 4, watch that escape cycle, because that's where the behavior science comes into play. Let's say you both sit down for a nice paper of homework. You guys both start and everything's going good. Then all of a sudden, they start yelling, no, I can't do this. And then you say, no, you can, let me help you. Then they say, I have to get up and I have to go. You say, well, sit back down, let's finish this and then you take a break. And they say, and just start crying. And you start to argue. And then now, 20 to 25 minutes later, absolutely no homework has been completed. So you say, you know what, that's enough of this. Go to your room. We'll deal with this tomorrow. And they say, okay. And they turn around and they smile and go to their room because they have successfully escaped. And wait a minute, the same thing is happening to you. Because once they go to their room, all that fighting stops, all the yelling stops, all the anxiety stops immediately. So you say, now I can at least make dinner or watch my show or do whatever else I got to do around this house. So both individuals are being reinforced without even knowing it. Nobody sat down and said, well, you know what? Let's create this pattern of escape for both of us. It just evolved. So here's something you can do. Change what happened before the homework starts. Now, you know they have been through the gauntlet that day. So maybe when they get home, they are not ready to immediately start, but you give them time to decompress, sit there and relax, maybe get a snack, use the restroom. Some people need a nap, get a little bit of water, hydrate yourself. All those things help you to be ready after a big day of chaos to come home and be able to settle down and think properly. So setting that little piece up right there really helps somebody transition into the homework. Think about how different that is as opposed to turn that game off and come sit down. Nobody really wants to do that. But if you don't allow them to watch 3 hours of YouTube as soon as they get home, don't allow them to scroll on their phone for 2 hours because it's going to be hard to get them to transition back to the homework. Just a little bit of decompression, snack, water, rest, all your basic needs. And after a little while, let them do their homework. But remember, you have to set up a clear transition point. Okay, we get home. First, eat your snack, get some water, take a rest. After that, you'll finish the homework, and then you can go outside and play. So now it's predictable, and you're not just springing up the worst possible case scenario in the world up on them and then telling them things get worse by here's some homework. Now you may say, well, what about that child who has a problem getting started? They can't organize their thoughts. They know how to do the homework, but they don't know how to get organized and motivated to get things going. And that's where you can make the starting point smaller. So instead of saying, you know what, just go ahead and finish your homework, you say, here, let's come start these 3 problems real quick, and then let's see if we can get you going. Hey, you know what, I'll help you do the first one, and then you can go ahead and take it from there. This is a little technique that we call behavioral momentum, or a high probability event. So you give them something that's high probability, just doing 3 problems, and that snowballs into making things easier on down the line. So you get that momentum with the behavior just by helping them make that starting point a little bit smaller. And then by the time you're finished, they knocked it out and a whole lot of time flew by and they didn't even know it. Next, don't turn homework into a test of the relationship. So you want to avoid things like, you know what, if you love me, you do this. If you respected me, you start this homework right now. Because now you're not dealing with the homework anymore. It's not arithmetic, it's not reading or writing. You're dealing with power because you're attempting to assert your control in your relationship over them in order to make them do something that may be a little bit difficult. So instead of saying, you know what, if you really, really loved us, you would do your homework without a problem. Why do you make us go through this every night? You may say something like, you know what, I can see that this is difficult for you. Let's try to figure out why that is. Now you guys are working together and it's you two against the homework instead of me against you. It's not a test of the relationship. You just want to get them started so they can complete it without any problems. Now, know when the homework is telling you something bigger. Now, it's okay to occasionally have a meltdown or a blow up over homework. That is totally normal. Most children go through that. But what is not typical is to constantly go through it every single day. And not just that, but the length and the intensity of the tantrum will also tell you if something is a little bit off. So if they're screaming at the top of their lungs for 3 hours straight because they don't want to do homework, there may be some neurological difference that may be going on. They may be having a tantrum to the point where they're unable to control themselves. And that is outside the realm of, I just don't want to do my homework right now. So if they're constantly having problems reading the question, maybe they're having some reading difficulties, or maybe they're having difficulties adding and it's repeated and you have to do repeated teaching. And you think they got it one day and the next day you come back, it's not there anymore. So when you start to see patterns like that, and even the ones with the difficulties organizing their information and get it started, that also might tell you something about their executive functioning skills. And when you see all of this, it may be time to have a bigger conversation with the school team. Ask questions like, how many kids do you have in this situation? Is it typical for them to take this long doing homework? As a matter of fact, how long should this homework take? If I have trouble, where can I get support? And this is a key one that a lot of people miss, and they think that you can't even ask this question. Can we take some of the homework down a little bit? Maybe they have to do 10 instead of the entire 20. Now, people usually won't ask that because they feel like they're giving favoritism to one student over another. But what you're really doing is you're saying, you know what? It's about competency. Can you do this problem? It is not about sending you through the gauntlet to see how many of these you can do before you break down. I just want to know that you can do it. And if they can demonstrate that in less problems, then that is totally fine because it is based on their particular needs. So don't be afraid to be vocal, ask questions, and even sometimes give suggestions. So tonight, if homework starts to go sideways, before you ask, why would you just do your homework? I want you to think and ask, what about this is difficult? That will give you a better idea of what to do next, because it may be they're tired, maybe they're hungry, and maybe they're just a little bit thirsty. Sometimes they just can't get their thoughts organized enough to carry it out. Sometimes they're just so overwhelmed by everything that happened during the day, and they've been holding it together so long during the day that they have to explode when they get home. It may be a number of difficulties, from reading to writing to even arithmetic. But you have to ask those questions because those will let you know what to do next. If you just think, oh, they don't want to do it, they're a bad kid, there's nothing you can do about changing that. But we can help you with your reading. We can help you to approach a task and not become frustrated when it doesn't go your way. Those are the skills that they need to learn. And that's what the homework is about. It's not, once again, about sending you through some gauntlet to see how many of these problems you can do before you crack. It's about seeing if you're competent enough to execute and solve the problem. And if you are, then the homework did exactly what it was supposed to do. So if you still have questions about homework, meltdowns, ADHD, autism, subscribe. Make sure you share this video because there are a number of other people who can benefit from this information. And make sure that you continue to come back every time we drop a video. We drop one at least twice a week, and we have shorts to hit home the points throughout the week. So make sure you check those out as well. And remember, we have our behavior boot camp for parents, which will really help you in much more depth with addressing these types of situations so you don't fly off the handle and do something that you might regret a little bit later. So once again, this is Ken from the Djed Institute of Learning. We hope that you not only enjoyed this video, but that you learned something from it. And we always ask our followers, our village, those that ride with us, to do this one thing. It's very, very, very easy, simple thing if they want to keep it coming. And that is stay tuned.